Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up from May 19th through 25th. This week I read 4 books, I watched 8 shows, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 1 book. It's been a while since I've had to wrap up so many TV shows, but that's what I get for watching 2 episodes here, 2 episodes there, that type of thing. When I started doing this wrap-ups, it was like, and I watched 1 show, and it was like 24 episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Anyway, as is traditional, let's start with talking about the books. First I read the 7th and 8th volumes of The Wicked and the Divine, which would be Mothering Invention and Old is the New. Obviously, being the 7th and 8th volumes in this series, there's not a lot I can tell you. The only thing I can really tell you about these volumes is 8 isn't a traditional volume, it's a collection of pieces they did outside of the main storyline, just kind of brought together. And these volumes definitely went through a lot of the way backstory of this universe. If you've never heard of this series, every 90 years, 12 gods are reincarnated into the bodies of teenagers. They get powers, they're usually treated like rock stars, but they will die within 2 years. That is the basic premise. Saying pretty much anything else could definitely be spoilers. I also started reading this series years ago, so picking up volumes once every 6 months or so means I've definitely forgotten things that happened previous, so I'm very glad that there's a page at the beginning that tries to tell you who's alive, who's dead, what's happened with them, but I usually still end up a little bit confused. Second, I finished a reread of Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. The TV adaptation is coming out on Friday, so I know what I'm doing on Friday, and spoiler alert for what I'll be talking about in my next weekly wrap-up. This book is about a fairly large cast of characters, all centering around Armageddon. We have an angel and we have a devil, and they're on Earth and they like being on Earth and they don't really want to go back to their respective places. One night the Antichrist is born and they're trying to keep an eye on it so that Armageddon doesn't really happen because they don't really want to go home. Some shenanigans ensue and they end up not knowing where the Antichrist is, which is a definite problem because the demon was definitely supposed to be keeping an eye on it. Outside of this, a witch from 300 years ago had made prophecies about this, and her descendant knows what's going to happen. There's still a witchfinder army who is trying to track down witches. And oh yeah, what would the Armageddon be without the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And trust me, it gets even more weird from there. Like I said, this is a reread for me, and if you've been paying close attention, you might have realized that I also read this book last week in the form of the BBC audio drama, but I read it in physical form this week for the Good Omens read-along. I am just so ready for the TV show, and if it doesn't use a heck of a lot of Queen tunes, I'm gonna be so mad. The final book I read this week was called Journal, and it was found by Kristine and Joyce Atkinson. This was a very interesting format, and I saw it on display at the library, picked it up, and then immediately was like, I have to bring this home with me and finish it. So this book is made to look like a very old book that somebody has basically been doing these like paste and copy and like putting bits of typewriter paper and that type of thing into it. And it's kind of like a journal but also a scrapbook, and it's her art project. And essentially it's put forward as these 2 people went out and bought a desk and they were refurbishing it, and when they took out one of the drawers they found a false bottom and found this journal in it. In the journal we are following Amy, whose mother has recently died and whose husband has just got a job across the country, so they're in the process of moving to Boston from Houston. As you go through, you learn more of their story. She talks about things in her art as well, which is interesting, and the story does really suck you in. I don't want to tell you anything else about it, but there's definitely a mystery element to this. It's short and a fairly quick read, but I really didn't want to put it down. On to the 8 TV shows I watched this week. I realized that with my friend's Crave subscription came Drunk History, so I decided when I had about 20 minutes to spare, I would watch the 1 episode I really wanted to watch, which was the Hamilton episode with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I was not disappointed. It was absolutely fantastic. He's charming as all hell. And then again, as always, the cast and the reenactments was just so good. After that, we started the 3rd season of Fear the Walking Dead, and even in a zombie apocalypse, white douchebags are gonna be white douchebags. I also watched the very last episode of Game of Thrones, and I mean, my very favorite character didn't die, so I'm happy about that. The rest of it, as everyone on Twitter will tell you, was kind of a letdown. I also watched the finale of the 6th season of RuPaul's Drag Race. In previous episodes I kept saying I was on the 5th season. I was wrong. It's just the 5th season on Netflix, but it's the 6th season in total because for whatever reason, the 1st season is not on Netflix. I assume licensing issues. I also watched the entire 1st season of You, which is an adaptation of the Carolyn Kepnes book of the same title, which I read earlier this year. I want to say I read it in February, and I was drawn to it because of the second person narration, and I enjoyed that that was brought over into the narration of the TV show. Some things did change in the TV show. It made things a little bit more plausible, and all in all, I thought it was a pretty great adaptation. We also watched some more of the 20th season of Survivor, which again is heroes versus villains, and I hate the villains. I hate them so much. One of them that I really wanted to go home went home, but only one villain so far has gone home, and that is a problem. I also watched the last 2 episodes of Yuri on Ice. I can't believe that's all we have. I want to get my hopes up and know that there's going to be another season or a movie, but because nothing has been officially announced, I have to keep my hopes down, otherwise I'm just gonna have them crushed. This show is just super gay and I love it. The final TV show I watched this week was The West Wing. We watched the 2-parter season finale for season 1 and then watched the first episode of season 2. Again, this is something that I'm rewatching, but I'm watching it with somebody who has never seen it before, so there's definite points where they'll be like, oh my goodness, I hope that they don't break up, or oh my goodness, I hope that this doesn't happen, and I just have to say nothing. Nothing. I will not spoil this for you. I won't even look at you in a way that could make you think that you are right or wrong in whatever you're saying, because no, you just have to watch the show. You'll figure it out. On to the movie I watched this week. I watched Rudy. This is based on a true story about a kid that said, when I grow up and graduate high school, I'm going to go to Notre Dame and I'm going to play on their football team, and everybody told him that was not going to happen. He's short, no matter how much he trains, he's not going to be one of those big buff guys, but oh my goodness, was he ever freaking determined. I was so glad I watched this. It's very strange too, because the 2 big things in this movie are religion and sports, and I don't particularly care about either of those things, and yet I love a good sports movie, and I always will. On to the book I listened to this week. I listened to The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali by Sabina Khan. Let me tell you that listening to this in public was a borderline mistake, because there were several times that I started tearing up and was very happy I was wearing sunglasses so people waiting for the bus wouldn't know that I was in emotional turmoil. Rukhsana's Bangladesh parents immigrated to America, and they are also Muslim, and they have no idea that she is a lesbian with a girlfriend. Hiding this from her parents is a point of stress, especially when her friends don't really understand that if she were to tell her parents, it would not go well. Eventually her parents find out anyway, and then so many things happened that made me very angry. That's not me saying I was angry at the book. I was angry at her parents and what the culture was doing. I really don't like giving away too many plot points, but definite trigger warnings for parental abuse and people just trying to pray the gay away. This book was heartbreaking and beautiful, and I cannot recommend it more. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!